Before we dive into the story, tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more heart-touching tales. And wishing you a beautiful day now. Sit back and enjoy the story. The breaking point. Vincent Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching Manhattan glitter below like scattered diamonds. At 28, he commanded a tech empire worth billions. His revolutionary software powering half the world's smartphones. The Sterling Industries tower pierced the skyline, a monument to his relentless ambition. His assistant knocked softly. Before entering, Amelia Parker moved with quiet grace, her auburn hair catching the afternoon light as she placed a steaming cup of coffee on his mahogany desk. For 3 years, she had been his constant professional anchor, always present, always efficient, always maintaining that careful distance that made her invaluable. "The quarterly reports are ready for your review," she said, her voice gentle but clear. "The board meeting is scheduled for 4. Vincent nodded without turning from the window. "Cancel it. Reschedule for tomorrow." Amelia paused, her green eyes studying his tense shoulders. "Is everything all right, Mr. Sterling?" He finally turned, and she saw something in his dark eyes she had never seen before. Vulnerability. Pain. The untouchable billionaire looked almost human in that moment. "Just some personal matters to handle," he said, his voice rougher than usual. Vincent's mind drifted back to the tree-lined streets of his childhood neighborhood in Connecticut. Even then, the Sterling family had money, but nothing compared to the fortune he would later build. None of that mattered when he was 12 and racing his bicycle down Maple Street to see Rosalie Matthews. Rosalie lived in the modest house at the end of the block. Her father, a local mechanic, her mother a teacher. She had honey-colored hair that danced in the wind and eyes the color of summer sky. When she smiled, Vincent felt like he could conquer the world. "Promise me something," she had said one autumn afternoon as they sat beneath the old oak tree in her backyard, leaves falling around them like golden confetti. "Anything, 12-year-old Vincent had replied without hesitation. "Promise me that no matter how rich and famous you become, you'll never forget about us regular people." He had laughed, thinking it was just childhood talk. "I promise, but I'll never be too good for you, Rosalie. Never." She had kissed his cheek then, and he had carried that warmth with him through high school, through college at Harvard, through the grueling years of building his empire. Every success, every milestone, every triumph had been colored by the thought of returning to her as the man worthy of her love. The phone call that shattered everything came on a Tuesday afternoon in March. The betrayal. Nathan Cross had been Vincent's roommate at Harvard, his closest friend through the years of struggling to get Sterling Industries off the ground. Nathan knew every detail of Vincent's feelings for Rosalie, had listened to countless late-night conversations about the girl back home who held his heart, which made the phone call all the more devastating. "Vincent, I need to tell you something." Nathan's voice was tight with nervousness. "About Rosalie and me." Vincent had been reviewing contracts in his office, Amelia organizing files nearby. The words hit him like a physical blow. "We've been seeing each other for 6 months now. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I knew how you felt about her. I'm sorry, man. I really am. But I love her, and she loves me too." The phone slipped from Vincent's fingers, clattering onto the marble floor. Amelia looked up sharply, concern flooding her features as she watched the color drain from his face. "Sir, what's wrong?" But Vincent couldn't speak. 15 years of hope, of planning, of believing that someday he would return to claim the girl who had promised to wait for him, crumbled in an instant. Nathan, his best friend, the man who knew exactly how much Rosalie meant to him, had stolen his dreams. 2 weeks later, engagement announcement appeared in the Connecticut Post. Vincent stared at the photo of Rosalie and Nathan, her radiant smile as she displayed the diamond ring that should have been his gift to her. His mother called within. "Ours, sweetheart. I saw the announcement. Are you all right?" Grace Sterling's voice carried all the warmth and worry of a mother who had watched her son carry a torch for the same girl since childhood. "I'm fine, Mom," Vincent lied, his voice hollow. "Just business as usual. Vincent, you know you can't fool me. Come home for the weekend." Let me make you some of that chocolate cake you loved as a boy." But Vincent couldn't face going home. Couldn't bear the thought of driving past Rosalie's house and seeing Nathan's car in the driveway. Instead, he threw himself into work with a vengeance that worried everyone around him. The weeks following the engagement announcement were a blur of 16-hour workdays and sleepless nights. Vincent buried himself in new projects, aggressive acquisitions, expansion plans that had his board of directors struggling to keep up. Amelia watched it all with growing concern. She arrived earlier each morning to find him already at his desk, clothes wrinkled from sleeping in his office. She stayed later each evening, quietly ensuring he ate something and handling the details he forgot in his obsession with work. "The comfort, Mr. Sterling," Amelia said one evening as the clock struck midnight. "You need to go home, get some real sleep." Vincent looked up from his computer screen, his eyes bloodshot and rimmed with exhaustion. "I'm fine, Amelia. Just finishing up this proposal. You've been working on that same proposal for 4 hours? You're not fine." Her directness surprised him. In 3 years, she had never challenged him so openly. Something in her tone, gentle but firm, cut through his defenses. "She's getting married next month," he said quietly, the words scraping, his throat raw. "The girl I've loved since I was 12 years old is marrying my best friend." Amelia set down the files she had been organizing and moved closer, her professional mask slipping for the first time. "I'm sorry. It must be incredibly painful. I built all of this for her." Vincent gestured around his opulent office. "Every deal, every innovation, every success. I thought if I could just become successful enough, important enough, she would see that I was worth waiting for." "Maybe she just couldn't wait any longer," Amelia said softly. "Maybe she needed someone who was present, not just promising to be there someday." The truth in her words hit harder than any accusation. Vincent had been so focused on building his empire that he had forgotten to actually live his life, to be present for the people who mattered. The night before Rosalie's wedding, Vincent sat alone in his penthouse, a bottle of whiskey his only companion. The city lights blurred through his tears as he scrolled through photos on his phone, images of a life he had never quite lived. His finger hovered over Rosalie's number. One call, and he could tell her everything, pour out 15 years of love and dreams and beg her to reconsider. But even in his pain, he knew it wouldn't be fair. She had made her choice, and he had to respect it. Instead, he called the one person who had been there through it all. "Amelia, I know it's late, but could you come over? I need someone to talk." 2. She arrived within the hour, still in her jeans and sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger, softer, more human than he had ever seen her. "I brought coffee," she said, holding up a thermos. "And sandwiches you haven't been eating." They sat on his leather couch, the city sprawling below them. And for the first time in years, Vincent talked about something other than business. He told her about the 12-year-old boy who had fallen in love under an oak tree, about the promises made and the dreams that had just died. Amelia listened without judgment, her presence a balm to his wounded soul. The consequences when Vincent finally fell silent, Amelia reached out and took his hand. "I'm sorry you're hurting," she said simply. "No one deserves to have their heart broken like this." In that moment, something shifted between them. The professional distance that had always existed crumbled, replaced by something deeper, more intimate. Vincent saw her not as his efficient assistant, but as a woman who had chosen to be there for him in his darkest hour. "Stay with me tonight," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to be alone." Amelia's eyes searched his face, seeing the pain and vulnerability he had hidden from the world. She should have said no, should have maintained the boundaries that had kept their relationship safe and simple. Instead, she nodded. What happened that night was born of grief and comfort, of two lonely people finding solace in each other's arms. Vincent's kisses tasted of whiskey and tears, desperate and hungry. As if he could lose himself in her warmth and forget the pain that threatened to consume him, Amelia met his need with her own. 3 years of suppressed feelings finally breaking free. She had watched him from afar, professional and distant, but her heart had been anything but neutral. She had loved him quietly, secretly, knowing that his heart belonged to someone else. In the soft light of his bedroom, They came together with a tenderness that surprised them both. This wasn't just physical need or emotional comfort. It was the beginning of something neither had expected. As dawn broke over Manhattan, Vincent held Amelia close, her head on his chest, her breathing soft and even. For the first time in weeks, the crushing weight of his heartbreak felt bearable. 3 weeks had passed since that emotional night. The days that followed Rosalie's wedding had been a careful dance of professional politeness between Vincent and Amelia. Neither spoke about what had happened, both retreating behind familiar walls of business meetings and quarterly reports. Vincent threw himself back into work with renewed focus, but something had changed. The desperate edge to his ambition had softened, replaced by a quiet efficiency that impressed his board of directors. Then came the morning when Amelia didn't show up for work. Vincent found himself checking his watch repeatedly, an unfamiliar anxiety gnawing at his chest. Amelia had never missed a day in 3 years, never been late, never failed to call if something was wrong. When she finally arrived at noon, her face was pale, her usual composed demeanor shaken. She moved differently, more carefully, as if she were made of glass. "I'm sorry I'm late," she said, avoiding his eyes. "I had a doctor's appointment." Vincent studied her face, noting the way she held herself, the slight tremor in her hands as she organized papers on his desk. "Is everything all right?" Amelia's green eyes met his for just a moment before she looked away. "We need to talk, after work." Privately, the new beginning that evening, Vincent waited in his office as the building emptied around them. Tia finally knocked and entered. She looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way that made his chest tighten. "I'm pregnant," she said without preamble, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The words hit him like a physical blow, but not in the way he expected. Instead of panic or regret, he felt something else entirely, a strange sense of rightness, as if this moment had been inevitable. "Are you sure?" he asked gently. "I've taken 3 tests. Saw the doctor this morning." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I know this complicates everything. I know you're still healing from Rosalie, and I don't expect anything from you. I just thought you should know." Vincent stood and moved toward her, his movements careful and deliberate. "Amelia, look at me." She raised her eyes to his, and he saw fear there, but also something else. Hope, carefully guarded but unmistakable. "That night," he said softly, "it wasn't just about comfort or grief. Not for me. You've been the one constant in my life for 3 years. You've seen me at my worst and stayed anyway. You've cared for me when I couldn't care for myself." "Vincent, you don't have to. I love you," he interrupted, the words coming easier than he expected. "It's not as a rebound, not as a replacement for what I lost. I love you, Amelia Parker, for who you are. For your strength, your kindness, your ability to see through my walls and love me anyway." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "But Rosalie was a childhood dream," he said, taking her hands in his. "You're my reality. You're my present and my future, if you'll have me." 6 months later, Vincent stood in the same spot by his office windows. But everything had changed. The view was the same, but he was seeing it through different eyes. Amelia sat at her desk, her hand resting on the gentle curve of her belly, sunlight catching in her hair as she worked. But she looked up and caught him, watching, a smile spreading across her face. "The merger documents are ready for your signature," she said, but her tone was different now. Warmer, more intimate. "In a minute," he said, walking over to her desk. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, his hand covering hers on her belly. "How are you feeling? Better? The morning sickness is finally passing?" She looked up at him with eyes full of love and contentment. "Ready to meet our daughter?" Vincent smiled, thinking of the ultrasound image tucked in his wallet, the tiny profile that had stolen his heart the moment he saw it. "I can't wait." As he signed the merger documents that would expand Sterling Industries into new markets, Vincent realized that success felt different now. It wasn't about proving himself worthy of love anymore. It was about building something lasting for the family he never knew he wanted. That evening, as they walked through Central Park hand in hand, Amelia squeezed his fingers. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Rosalie had chosen you instead?" Vincent considered this, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. "I used to," he said finally. But now I think everything happened exactly as it was supposed. 2. If she had chosen me, I never would have discovered what real love feels like. Amelia smiled, her free hand resting on her belly where their daughter grew. I love you too, Vincent Sterling. All of you. Past, present, and future. As they walked toward their new life together, Vincent realized that sometimes the greatest love stories begin not with a first kiss under an oak tree, but with a choice to stay when everything falls apart. Sometimes the person you're meant to be with is the one who sees you at your worst and chooses to love you anyway. Their daughter would be born in the spring, and with her would come a love deeper than Vincent had ever imagined possible. Not the desperate, grasping love of his youth, but the steady, sure love of a man who had learned that true happiness isn't about getting what you want, but about wanting what you have. The end.